All right. Well, I am here to welcome everyone to our session on this author spotlight on with Dr. Denisha Murff. I apologize for that,
You're
and
okay.
cultural responsive pedagogy. So, Dr. Murff is an administrator, author, adjunct professor, consultant, and relentless advocate for equitable education. Throughout her career, she has worked to incorporate equity, inclusion, and cultural responsiveness in her work. Dr. Murff is the founder of Murff Consulting Group, an educational consulting group focused on cultivating the greatness within each scholar. I just love that piece. She also has launched her podcast series, Education Empowerment Movement. Dr. Murff believes education is the great equalizer. So I am Sandy Gehring. I am a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning, and it is my pleasure today to introduce you all to Dr. Murff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me okay. Um, I was thrilled to be asked to do this. I did write this book, Culturally Responsive Pedagogy, Promising Practices for African American Male Students. It was published in 2020. Here's a picture of it. I always keep one close. I always crack jokes about that, but I do. I'm very proud of that work. The story behind it is that it began with my dissertation. So when I began my work, I went to Purdue and I was in an educational studies program with a focus on educational leadership. And this was a topic that I knew that I wanted to research and do, more work on, just to add more to that field. And the dissertation process, of course, was so exciting and so promising. It was a lot of work, but I learned so much during that process. And when I was finished defending, one of my committee members, she asked me if I would turn this into a book to publish. She was part of a group that really focused on multicultural education. She felt this needed to be added to the literature. And so, of course, I'm thrilled, like, oh my goodness, I just defended my dissertation and now I've been asked to write a book. This is phenomenal. And so what I did was I began that process and worked along with her and the publishing company, and I was able to publish this book in 2020. And so here are my Twitter addresses. I love to connect on Twitter and learn new things, but this book has just been a highlight for me to be able to publish my work and share this with others. If you are interested in purchasing a copy, you can definitely purchase that from me. It's underneath Consulting Group website, and I really had some great responses to this book and been able to share and have great conversations with others. And a little bit about me, because everybody wants to know about, the author. So I have been a school principal for 14 years. I'll actually head to the district office to be a curriculum coordinator for our language assistance program July 1. But for the past 14 years, I have been an elementary principal. I had the honor of being recognized as IASP's Elementary Principal of the Year for 2020. And when they ask for pictures, of course, they ask you for pictures and things to share. And this was a picture that had popped up. It's actually a picture that was in my office. And it's just a picture that reminds me of why I do what I do. And our school is very diverse. We have so many students from all walks of life that walk into our building. And this work was so important to me to make sure that they're in a culturally responsive learning environment where they can feel seen, valued, heard, and respected. This is my family, because I always say I could not get things done without the support of my wonderful husband, Daryl Murff. We have 3 amazing children. Our oldest is Mackenzie. She'll be a sophomore at Indiana University. My son, Lincoln, he just turned 16. He'll be a junior at Ben Davis High School. And our youngest, we say she is the apple of our eye. She will be a 6th grader at Westlake. All 3 of my children attended Westlake. My youngest, she will finish her 6th grade year at Westlake as well. But they just, when I think about the work that's important to me, I think about the fact that if it's not good enough for my own children, then it's not good enough for anyone's children. And so that was a lot behind why I did the things that I have done as a leader and as I was writing that book. This book was so important because I found very quickly that the journey begins with me. As the educator, as a school leader, to be culturally responsive, the journey has to begin with me. And so this book was just a real work of heart for me. It's something I'm passionate about. I wanted to share the rich stories and the information that I found because it touched me to hear these stories. My focus was really a qualitative study, and I was able to valuable stories about ways to increase the student learning outcomes of African American males and what that would mean for our school community. And I really felt that this needed to be shared with other people. In the book that were able to read it, I did highlight some essential elements. The first one was about that whole piece, when it comes to high expectations and what that means. We always say that all students can learn, but it's a different mindset to truly have that belief that no matter their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their present level of performance, their walk of life, that they all can and will learn and succeed. And then the book really talked about, as we honed in on these stories, things that popped out were that motivation to learn. For African American male students, we have to look at those curriculum and instructional opportunities that include issues that concern them. What's going on in their lives? What's going on in their communities? How are we helping them to connect to that curricular and instructional, all those aspects, those expectations in the building? I looked at engagement. Something that came out continuously was focused on student engagement. These were practitioners that were consistently providing, meaningful activities, hands-on, inquiry-based, project-based learning. And kids had choice and voice and ownership, and they were able to apply it to just their real lives. And it helped to increase their engagement. These practitioners were all focused on relationship building, making sure that students felt that sense of belonging, that they were in an environment that was caring and concerned, and there was we always say mutual respect between our students and our teachers. These practitioners in the book, when they told their story, there was that focus on empowerment, making sure that African American males, they see they have a voice in society, that things aren't just happening to them or being done to them. Things are being done where their voice is they're asked to share their voice, they're heard, they're respected, and they're a part of that decision-making process. And then that partnership piece, every practitioner in the book really focused on partnerships with parents, not just parent involvement where we're teaching them, not just with us saying we're trying to engage them in our work, but really partnering to have that reciprocal partnership between the school and the parents, bringing in that community outreach piece so that they feel they are partners in the education of their child. And every single interviewee in this book was able to share some powerful information in that area. The book also highlighted those 3 promising practices. Those are the 3 large overarching things that we've mentioned: high expectations for all, but make sure you're focusing on your African American male students. Developing those positive and strong relationships, making sure that they know how much you truly care about them. How well do you know them? How deep has that relationship gone? And then looking at what that classroom looks like. Does the curriculum and the instruction motivate and empower them? Are they able to feel they can actively learn and participate in that setting? And so those were rich stories and examples that popped out for this book. And again, those stories were just so valuable. And so always, like to end my presentations with this because it came directly from the book. The African American community has always valued education. So I thought back to all the time teacher when I heard people say, well, their parents just don't care, or they act up because no one holds them accountable, and it was always a reason why. And what the research has shown, what the stories have shown, is that the African American community has always valued education. But sometimes when our African American males come in, they don't find themselves in that warm, nurturing, loving environment. They find themselves having to deal with things they shouldn't have to shoulder at such a young age. And so these teachers showed me through their experiences, through their stories, the power of the work that culturally responsive practices had in their classroom, how they were able to educate other people about what it meant to be culturally responsive, because it is our responsibility to disrupt that status quo that sees our African American male students through a deficit lens, or just sees them as athletes, or sees them as behavior problems, or not giving them that equitable access to those higher level courses. I was able to share things from the experts, whether it was Dr. Gloria Latson Billings or Dr. Geneva Gay, or even Zaretta Hammond's work that's been most recent. This was really an opportunity to highlight that work that's been done. And so when I thought about what we could talk about, I really just wanted to hear from some participants. I wanted to know, were there any quotes or passages that stood out to you? And if so, why? So if anyone would like to come off of mute if that's possible, or type in the chat box, were there any quotes or any passages that stood out to you from the book?
So Dr. Murph, I will keep the chat up so that I can see if anybody puts them into the chat.
Okay.
And again, feel free to either unmute or come on and share some quotes that stood out to you.
I'm going to let that one stay there too and go on to the next one that might be a little more open-ended. Were there any takeaways from the book? And then the final question I had were, what burning questions do you have? So that might be able, if you haven't read the book and just were interested in coming to have a discussion, let me know if there were any burning questions that you had about the book, why I wrote the book, or what were some things that popped up for me, because I would love to answer those questions. Any burning questions at all? And that's my final slide. If no one has any questions or any comments, that'll be a really quick session. But if you are interested in the book, I can definitely go back to the link that shows the ordering information. I've had some folks read the book with their staff during a staff meeting, some that just read it for their own pleasure and used it for their own research. But it's been really exciting to be able to share this work with other people, because it's definitely a topic that is pertinent to the work that we do every year with our students, especially for African American males.
Does anyone have any follow-up questions for Dr. Murph about the book or any of her research that she's done? Keeping an eye on the chat to see if anything pops up in the chat.
Well, I think that's it. But thank you, Sandy. I don't think we have any more questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murph. And again, everyone, if you could remember to follow Virtually Different and to follow Dr. Murph on Twitter, Instagram, that would be great. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again. I'm glad we were able to connect twice now.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.